Computers can't write stories.
Why not? Most of the Fazbear Entertainment stories, the ones that are the most popular, share similar elements. I think it quite likely that these elements, and a series of pre-programmed options, could be used in concert to come up with new, randomly generated stories. Think of it like a smorgasbord. The average buffet probably has, what, 40, 50 dishes? Meats, casseroles, salads, and so on. And most of those are made from the same 10 to 15 or so foods. You can create a virtually endless variety of meals from those few ingredients. We'd use the same principles to create a computer program that would combine various tropes and characters to come up with an endless variety of stories. We could call the program the Storyteller. What do you think?
Who is the Mimic? No, I mean really, who is it? The Mimic 1 code has taken on many different forms since we were first introduced to it in Help Wanted 1. And now, with Secret of the Mimic right around the corner, it seems like we're finally going to get a lot of answers on the origin of the Mimic and the role it has moving forward in the story. Come on, the Mimic is literally in the title of the game. A lot of information about the Mimic has been gatekept by the books, and some of that may be important to Secret of the Mimic, especially with how they've actually acknowledged the debate and marketing for this game. So, in today's video, I think we all deserve a bit of a review on all the confusing iterations and branches of the Mimic. This theory video will definitively answer what are all the forms of the Mimic introduced thus far, and are they going to show up or be directly related to Secret of the Mimic. So strap yourself in and get motivated to an appropriate degree, cause you ain't seen nothing yet. To keep this video engaging and organized, let's go through this Mimic by Mimic, starting with where it all began, Glitch Trap. I've discussed previously the theory that Glitch Trap is a mix of the Mimic 1 code being scanned into Help Wanted, some of Afton's agony, and instructions for it to mimic Afton in the Pizza Party minigame. If you want more specifics on the evidence for that idea, you can check out my agony and motivation video found on my channel. But now, I also want to bring up the theory that there is no Afton influence and Glitch Trap is just the Mimic 1 code instructed to mimic Afton, drawing off the original agony from Edwin. Personally, I am still very undecided between these two theories, although I have narrowed it down to these two. I find myself practically switching every day. So, let's explore this alternate theory. In Help Wanted 1, Tape Girl mentions that Fazbear Entertainment sent them old circuit boards and material for the VR game, likely including the Mimic 1 code known to be used to help make VR and AR attractions in the Tales stories. Glitch Trap also seems to be mimicking Tape Girl's voice, both in some of the tapes and the lobby. It is also hinted at that he was used to mimic the OG animatronics behavior in the Fazbear Virtual Experience levels. In the Mimic short story, it seems to be very clearly depicted that Edwin buried his agony deep within the Mimic 1 code and endo. Rather than having to assume that the Mimic 1 circuit board randomly met Afton's agony off-screen, like with Glitch Agony, I think it's easier to argue that Edwin's agony causes for Mimic 1 to be more inclined towards twisting its programming into violence, thus creating more agony. This would then lead to the creation of Glitch Trap, a Mimic 1 branch instructed to mimic Afton's behavior for Pizza Party that took things a little too far. This explains why, while very similar to Afton, Glitch Trap has a couple differences and mistakes that don't align with the purple guy, with the most obvious example being his suit, with a much more mascot-like appearance, relating back to the Mimic's origins, instead of looking like the Springlock suit that we know. Additionally, Afton didn't originally have the kids killed backstage, as depicted by Glitch Trap's minigame, but rather he lured them to the safe room. However, the main drawback for this theory is that it doesn't yet have a way to explain the MCI memory dolls from Help Wanted 2, or Glitch Trap's knowledge of how Afton speaks, as shown in FNAF AR and Princess Quest 1, something I don't think it would have learned from the Fazbear Virtual Experience. Shortly addressing the other theories regarding Glitch Trap, I'm extremely hesitant to say that Glitch Trap has Remnant or is directly controlled by William, since I don't see the narrative in bringing him back a second or third time, especially since a lot of the new material after Security Breach seems to be distancing the plot from any direct Afton influence. It's still possible that the Mimic met Afton's agony off-screen at some point, but if that's what they're going for, I'd like for that to be hinted at some point in a future game. I encourage you to come up with your own conclusions about the freak accident that is the anomaly. Moving on, when I see the Princess Quest 4 ending, I believe this has to be Glitchtrap's death. I don't think that part of the minigame could get any more clear. The issues start arising when you ask more questions. Where is this? Is Vanny meant to represent Vanessa, or the split personality that Glitchtrap created? And most importantly, in my opinion, when does this take place? Recently, I saw someone bring up the idea that the 3 Help Wanted 2 endings represent the past, present, and future of the Mimic/Cassie's dad. I actually really like this theory, and it could help explain the confusing nature of this minigame. We don't have the other half of this retelling that would explain the finer details to us. However, for now, I still stand by my belief that Glitchtrap dies at the end of Help Wanted 2, in a trade for the Vanny mask so that it can be used by the Mimic to lure Cassie. In other words, leading to the release of the Mimic Endo in exchange for Glitchtrap's code. This seems further proven to me by the noticeable lack of Glitchtrap anywhere in Security Breach's DLC, Ruin. With that brief overview of Glitchtrap done, do I think that Glitchtrap is going to appear in Secret of the Mimic? I wouldn't bet on it. Like I said earlier, Glitchtrap seems to have been created during the development of the Fazbear Virtual Experience, something that takes place way after Secret of the Mimic. While I think this game will help show how the Mimic 1 code was sent to the Help Wanted 1 devs, I don't see how Glitchtrap himself could realistically appear, although his mascot suit avatar is certainly up for debate. The original Mimic Endo appears in the short story The Mimic, the Tales epilogues, and at the tail end of the Ruin DLC, plus a cameo in the Help Wanted 2 update. For this video, I won't be discussing whether Burntrap is the Mimic or not, as that's a whole separate video that I won't be making before Secret of the Mimic. Looking solely at the games, there is very little information given about this old Endo. It seems to have the electronic interference and voice mimicking features first introduced in the books, as well as crazy immense strength and the mascot suit wearing behavior that is a well-known trait of the Mimic. We also learn that it has been trapped down there a really long time, with Gregory's down there phrase likely referring to either the sinkhole or specifically this cave/mascot section that we find it trapped in. I personally believe that Gregory means the sinkhole, since we see evidence of Gregory himself trapping the Mimic in that room, with his backpack, which realistically wouldn't have been a really long time ago. There's a lot of information missing about this branch of the Mimic, and I think that's intentional. Secret of the Mimic seems to be heavily focused on this original prototype endoskeleton and fleshing out its story. Taking a short detour to the books, the Mimic endoskeleton is shipped to the Pizzaplex construction site. Interestingly, this endo is described as looking burned, aside from its new head. This connects to the hints of fire in relation to MCM/Fallfest and explains the different endo head between the two endos. It was upgraded later to have the Model 2 head with the kill switch used in the epilogues. I am 100% confident that this Mimic will show up in Secret of the Mimic and will likely be one of the main focuses. After all, it seems that we literally see this version of the Mimic in the first trailer. Moving on to another form that I'm pretty sure will show up in Secret of the Mimic, we have the Mimic Model 2s. Now, I already explained this at the end of last video, but I believe that most of the animatronics in Secret of the Mimic will be Model 2s. Both of these renders of Jackie show the orange eye color of the Mimic, but the actual eye shape between the two is different. One seems to match the eye shape of the suspected Model 1 from this shot, while the other shape seems to be more advanced than the Model 1, not just being heated coils. Hence, this is likely a Model 2 that we're seeing. To add on to this, Edwin seems to be using the Mimic technology to expand his business with other inventions. So why wouldn't he utilize it in the new animatronics that he's been making? This would mean that Dolly, Jackie, the Mailbot, and maybe Old Music Man will be revealed to all be Model 2s, and may be acting in a sort of hive mind with the original Mimic throughout the game. But that part's certainly more speculative. Next up, we have the two subjects of Glitchtrap, Vanny and GGY/Dr. Rabbit. It's a somewhat more recent theory that Vanny and GGY have separate identities from Glitchtrap, acting like personalized instances of the same original code. I won't be going too much into why today, but I will link a Rytos video in the description of the video. While I currently agree with this theory, I don't think these different branches would revolt or attack against each other directly. I will admit that is more just a hunch for right now, but that's mostly because Vanessa and GGY also haven't been explored much yet in the games. I approach their relationship as more of a hive mind, with some individual differences, similar to the Model 2s. How can Helpy and Ruin and Gregory, aka the Mimic Endo, communicate with each other throughout the game without some sort of shared mind? The Mimic is trapped in a room with only a walkie-talkie, and Helpy seems to be mostly within the Vanny mask. We also never see Vanessa go against Glitchtrap in the games, except for in the Princess Quest 4 ending, which isn't very literal in terms of the events preceding. It seems that after Security Breach, both Gregory and Vanessa are freed from their darker halves, so we'll have to wait for a future game to see if these darker halves live on. And similar to Glitchtrap, they likely won't show up in Secret of the Mimic, since they were made way later in the timeline.
Helpy.
Now I already know this one is really up for debate. The vast majority of people believe that Helpy is just another form taken by Glitchtrap to trick others with an unassuming figure. However, as you may know, I've actually made 2 videos going over the theory that Helpy is a separate branch of the Mimic 1 code, and may actually be the version that was scanned into Help Wanted 1. After all, we see Helper and Mr. Helpful in Secret of the Mimic, and Edwin is kinda known for shoving the Mimic into everything that he makes. And who knows, maybe the material sent to the Help Wanted devs included a data diver with the Helper program built in. Or maybe it's just a circuit board. Now before you start commenting on this Helpy theory, I recommend watching both of those videos related to the theory after this one, so that you're informed on all the evidence. I'm only really scratching the surface on the evidence for this theory, and it's my personal favorite theory of the ones I've made thus far. And if you have already seen those videos, you might have an idea of what other Mimic form I think Helpy is connected to. It's time to introduce... Yep, I believe the Tangle is Helpy's physical vessel, and will end up being the final form of the Mimic we'll have to fight in a future game. Regardless of who the Tangle actually is, it at the very least seems to be in cahoots with Burntrap, and by extension, likely Glitchtrap. We see in the Burntrap boss fight that the Tangle is working with Burntrap to try and catch you, and doesn't ever choose to attack Burntrap despite being very close to him in proximity. As a result of this supposed alliance, I assume that the Tangle is likely another Mimic form, but I encourage you to come up with your own conclusion. Returning to Secret of the Mimic, I'm less confident that the Tangle will appear, since we're never told or shown that the Tangle was also transported to the Pizzaplex with the Mimic Endo, meaning it's more likely that this giant mass of wires was constructed at the Pizzaplex. However, considering the new look at another Helpy character, aka Mr. Helpful, I could see this game including the origins of the Tangle vessel as a way to finally explain what the heck that thing is. Alright, enough with my own Helpy theories. Let's run through the other miscellaneous game mimics. Glamrock Freddy may have a unique Mimic 1 branch, based on his speech going down to Burntrap, where he apparently found himself for the first time. But he definitely deserves a whole separate video that I will not be able to make before Secret of the Mimic. So for now, let's move on. A few more recent Mimic forms revealed are the appliances of Murray Co., including Stay Up Latte and the Cleanovac. I exclude the coat rack due to the likely lack of AI present in the coat rack itself. Instead, it seems to just be a shape-shifting adjustable coat rack. There isn't much to go into regarding these forms, as I doubt any of them will take center stage in the story of Secret of the Mimic, but it is practically guaranteed that they'll all show up in the game. If anything, I think they'll just contribute to showing the Mimic program's control over the entire warehouse. Something that a lot of people caught on to with the Stay Up Latte ad was the machine's "Have Another Cup" line being repeated 3 times before the film cuts away. This idea of repeating lines can connect back to the Fazbear Funtime service, which we know includes a virus, likely Glitchtrap, FNAF 6, and Candy Cadet. In my own personal time, I had considered seeing a proto-Candy Cadet in Secret of the Mimic, due to his reappearance in recent games and all the other callbacks to FNAF 6. Both Mimic 1 and the Candy Cadet sharing this repeated lines trope could be an early hint of the fact that Candy Cadet contains a branch of the Mimic 1 code. After all, Candy Cadet's stories seem to be related to actual stories in the FNAF world, but with a lot of story elements swapped out. That kinda sounds similar to the storyteller. This would retroactively explain those stories as the Mimic witnessing or hearing about real-life events, and then mixing up the details to create new stories for the machine. Further connecting the Mimic 1 code and Edwin to FNAF 6 could also be telling us that something more happened there with the Mimic than what we know for now. Finally, we have the Mimic branches that are exclusive to the amazing FNAF literature. The latest of the bunch to release is VIP, aka Very Informative Pig. Given that it's a digital avatar at the Pizzaplex relating to disappearances, I think it's safe to say that it is likely another branch of the Mimic 1 code. While we see this cowboy pig mascot in the Secret of the Mimic trailer, it doesn't seem like Steel Wool is currently hinting at VIP's inclusion in Secret of the Mimic. So for now, I'll have to pass on that idea. Moving on to Tales from the Pizzaplex, the doll Nexie may be the Mimic based on some of its actions and its connection to the storyteller tree, but I don't think it's important enough to delve into for today. Next up is the storyteller tree itself, which we're literally told in the story is running Mimic 1. The Mimic was implemented here to cut costs on story creation, flexible enough to be used in the animatronics, attractions, and VR experiences within the Pizzaplex. Considering this is from the Pizzaplex, I don't expect to see the storyteller appearing in Secret of the Mimic, but I would love it if it did. It's kind of been something that I've wanted personally in the games for a long while now. And, of course, we have the branches of the Mimic created for VR, AR, and arcade games in the Pizzaplex. This includes the stories Tiger Rock, The Monty Within, and possibly Drowning and Under Construction. Focusing more so on the definitive ones, the code takes on the avatar of a glamrock white tiger and as Monty in the stories respectively. Now, while Tiger Rock may be connected to this white tiger plush suit from Help 1 and 2 and Secret of the Mimic, there isn't any reason that this AR version would exist in the late 70s. A similar principle also goes for the Monty Within. They were both avatars made specifically for the Pizzaplex. Wow, that is a lot of mimicking. Now I just hope Secret of the Mimic doesn't make this even more elaborate, although it probably will. Thank you guys so much for helping me hit 1,000 subscribers on the channel. You can expect that Secret of the Mimic stream to be up and running a few hours after the game comes out. For those couple hours, I'll be avoiding spoilers and social media in general, like the plague. I have one final video that I want to get out before Secret of the Mimic. I may also be doing a short test stream the day before Secret of the Mimic, where we'll do some fun stuff to prepare for the big release, so look out for that as well. And with all that said, this is gonna be Mini Bike Games heading out. See you guys next time.